Welcome back, everyone. Now we will continue our discussion about the Euros 2016 with a slight deviation when we will move a bit further towards the east, as our next speaker is Mr. Ivan Bravo. Mr. Bravo is the General Manager of the Aspire Academy for Sports Excellence in Qatar. The Academy's mandate is to develop the football players and athletes that will represent the national teams of Qatar, both from youth and into senior ranks. He is the former Director of Strategy at Real Madrid. Mr. Bravo's talk is titled, "Does Money Always Guarantee Success in Football?" Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ivan Bravo.
Thank you, and good evening. First of all, I would like to congratulate Ramon and Arnar for having put together this fantastic forum, and I think it's been very insightful today. For us, for me and for us, on behalf of Aspire Academy, coming from the Middle East, from the tiny peninsula of Qatar, it has been very insightful and very resonating of some of the things that we have seen here, some of the things that have happened with football in Iceland. And I know for you it's going to sound very distant, but there are a lot of similarities on what we are trying to do in Qatar, what has happened in Iceland and the success of the national team. Also, when the national team coach was speaking about the generation that you see now going to the Euros, being, or a group of that generation being also the generation that took part in the under-17s Euro finals, the under-19 Euro finals, and the under-21 Euro finals. That is exactly the journey that we're trying to do as Qatar prepares to host a World Cup in 2022. The title of the session, "Does Money Guarantee Success?" I think is very appropriate because the perception that most of us will have in Europe is that Qatar just buys its way into things. And I think it is true that you can buy your way into many things in society, in business, in life, but I think sports is one of those things where it's very difficult to buy your way into success on the pitch. I will try to explain to you today what we do. Before that, if you give me just 1 second, I will tell you about Aspire Academy, because I would guess that a lot of you don't know what Aspire Academy is. Aspire Academy is the National Sports Academy of the country, and the vision of this place, founded in 2006 by the royal family of Qatar, was to try to put one center where all the youth and the talented potential athletes and football players of the country could train together, could be educated together, could live together, and could compete together, because in such a tiny country, and you know that very well, it's not easy to have 14 clubs, 16 clubs, 20 sports federations, and all of them try to do that individually. If you're talking about football, it's very difficult to have one good football player in one club and surround him by 10 football players who are not so good, and do that in another club, and so forth and so on. At the end, they need to be together to try to push each other to be the best that they can be. When I arrived the first time to the academy in 2006, while being at Real Madrid, I was mesmerized by the facility, and this is what most people know about Aspire, and I will show you a little bit of that in the presentation today. But it was an empty building. There was no soul, there was no people, there was no real purpose. Then something happened in 2010, and that's where everything started to connect in terms of where the academy and where the vision is going. We're going to hope that technology helps us, because I'm trying something that combines some videos for you to be a little bit more, to be able to access inside of what we do, and what I will try to explain about the project. So this is what happened in 2010.
The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
Okay, so what happened next, in addition to the geopolitical and the football discussion about whether the World Cup should be in Qatar or should not be in Qatar, we'll put that aside for tonight, is the country went crazy about the prospect of their national team trying to compete against the world's best. And one day I got a call and they told me, you got to come over. We want to propose something to you. I flew out there. I talked to the leadership of the country. And I saw a very special fire in the belly of the people who are trying to drive sports in the country. And they said, we need to try to put together a group of people who are going to help the country compete with the rest of the world. When I checked with friends and people in the industry, in football and in different places around the world, they say, you are crazy. There is absolutely no chance that you can do anything over there. When I first started talking to some of the coaches that I thought could really make an impact there, it was difficult to get them even to have a conversation about going to Qatar. I started checking a little bit of the situation and I said, okay, so can you tell me what is it that we have here that we can work with? Do we have a good talent pool? I said, no, the talent pool is minute. We barely have any people. All right, well, that's difficult. Do we have a national identity? Do people like football? Do they really follow with passion? They say they love Real Madrid and Barcelona, but they don't go to the stadium to see their own clubs. They don't go see the national team. Well, great. Do we have good athletes in the country? Well, we're pretty scrawny people. We don't really have the physique of the Europeans or the Japanese, the Koreans. Well, things are starting to look pretty good. Do we have a good work ethic in the country? Well, you know, we've lived in the desert for decades. We still like to go to the desert. School should be a mix of school and fun. Training, if we train 2 days, can we take a day off? And these were the things that we faced when we first arrived. Everybody said your odds of trying to get a team out of Qatar are pretty much zero. And they also then said, well, you have a solution, which is you're going to naturalize a bunch of Africans. That will solve your problem. You'll get a few Brazilians given the passport, they play for Qatar. We made a big push to say, if we do this at Aspire, it's got to be with kids who are born in Doha, in Qatar, or whose father or mother or grandfather or grandmother are born in Doha. We want to have a true Qatari team. And then the Qataris said, you're crazy. I said, well, we're going to give it a try. And we're going to try. I'm going to try to show you a sneak peek here of what we've been doing the last 5 years. This is not something we show. We've had a lot of interviews. Everybody's so curious. How are you going to build a team? What are you doing with a team? The Guardian, who's been bashing Qatar for a few years, kept coming and say, we don't see anything here. What's going on? What's your plan? They wrote, you know, Qatar will fail. Qatar is failing. We've told them, don't worry about us. Just go on. Don't worry about us. We're going to show you what we're trying to do. You will see that the journey is very long. We're working very hard. We're really looking at cases like Iceland. This is something that gives everybody just an idea that if you believe and you try hard, you can make it. And what we are happy about is that slowly we're getting the country to really get behind it. And this is what really needs to be the turning point. Iceland qualified for the Euros. Qatar plays in the Asian Confederation. Asian Confederation is the largest region in the world. You have gigantic countries, and Qatar is one of the tiniest. This is who we play against, just as a comparison. Total of 6,556 registered players. That's it. China with 26 million players and 711,000 registered players. Japan, 1.1 million registered players. If we go to Europe, in Germany, they have 6.3 million registered players. In Spain, where I'm from, 653,000 players out of 2.8 million people playing football. According to FIFA, you have here 21,508 registered players. So that's about 4 times what we have in Qatar. So we're asking our generation of players who are going to be 27, 28 in the World Cup in 2022 to be competing in this continent in under 17, under 19, under 23 Asian championships to see how far we can go and we can compete. The first thing we said, in addition to create the football program that I'll tell you about, is we need to start pushing the identity of the youngsters to want to wear this jersey, to really start getting behind the idea that it is an honor to play for Qatar. And we've done, over the last few years, a lot of media engagements in the country to get them to get that identity.
I'm Qatari, and I love football. My dream is to be a great player. And this is my hero. One of my country's most talented players. Nowadays, talent alone is not enough. Football has changed. There is a place where you can get world-class coaching that pushes you to train harder and harder. Education that helps build your future. Sports science that enhances your performance. And where you are always in the right hands. This place has found me, and I am ready. One day, I want to be his hero.
Aspire Academy. Aspire today. Inspire tomorrow.
So when people talk about money, the investment that has taken place, I think it is important to know that when I show you the facilities, where we train, where we work, it is an amazing investment. It is something that you need resources about. But this was done 10 years ago. That was just a building, just like this beautiful building we have here. What really matters is what happens in the building with the people who come to do events like this. That's what we're trying to do in Qatar. So the building was an investment 10 years ago. We forgot about that investment a long time ago. That is amortized, that is gone. And what we're trying to do now is to use the resources that we have in the country, and we have them, to make up for the deficits and the shortfalls we have when we're trying to develop these players. If we had the fields to play outside and we wouldn't have the heat that we have in Qatar, we wouldn't need a building like that. If we have a society that valued sports the way it's valued in Europe or South America, we wouldn't need to create such specific programs or have a fleet of buses that will get the kids from their homes, because otherwise they would not come to train. So all these things we do just to catch up. It's not to have an advantage, it's we're really behind. So this is Aspire. So now what really happened 4.5 years ago when we started developing the program is we said, okay, now throw away everything you think works in football, what works in Spain, and just try to really adapt to the environment we have here. And we have our methodology, we have our game model, we have the objectives and the principles that the players are trying to get. We're trying to get an identity of how we play football. We want all of our teams to play similarly. We're really trying to make sure the boys and the young players understand the game and are quick in the execution of the game model. We're trying to do all those things, but then we're really bringing it down to what really resonates with them and what are the difficulties that we face, and we're trying to be creative on how we overcome those difficulties. So the model is there, but the important thing is we needed to know that kids, the players, did not want to come to training. They did not want to do the intensity work. They were not physically ready to do it. They had poor nutrition habits. They had poor sleeping habits. The families didn't think that being a football player was a noble activity for their kids. They didn't think... We will move this one here, because this one... They didn't think that we had a chance. Here's a photo of what we faced in Qatar. This is a game played by Aspire Qatar national team player under 14 with PSG under 14. This is 2 years ago. Now, this is a little bit of an exaggeration because it turned out in this game that the captain of our team was the shortest guy in our team, and the captain of their team was the biggest guy in their team. If I am the mother of Abdallah, I take him out of that pitch right away. So you're not playing this game. These are some of the things that at the beginning we thought we're never going to be able to catch up. This game, by the way, ended 3-2 for PSG. And at the end, we had a chance to tie the game. We're never going to be able to compete like that. And what we realized is that we had to go all the way to the bottom of the development cycle and model, and we had to make sure that Abdallah would become the best athlete he could be, which will be always 1/5 of what the PSG friend is, but we had to make sure we started. So when we started the model of building a little bit of an athlete within the player, in addition to understanding technically and tactically what he needed to become, we realized that one of the worst things that were happening is at a younger age, they were afraid of physical contact. I understand in this game, but in general, they were afraid of physical contact. So we even had to go back and say, what do we do? How do we get them to be stronger, or at least not fearful? So we had to introduce things like judo and gymnastics at the beginning, so they would not be afraid of falling. So we had to really think outside of our comfort zone. We had to put them on very, very strong dietary programs so they would actually get the nutritional needs that they were missing. I will just show you very quick here also. Here we go here. So the little guys.
I want to dance by water beneath the Mexican sky. Drink some margaritas by swinging blue lights. Listen to the mariachi play at midnight. Are you with me? Are you with me? Are you with me?
We'll leave it there. We'll go back here. So we had to build the athlete, we had to actually make sure that they started understanding the game, and we had to start really pushing towards the belief that we could compete. And this was also something that was not being done in Qatar. When we would have a game like this at the beginning, if under 14 players of PSG would come, we would play with our under 16s because it was the only way we felt comfortable. We said if one day we're going to compete with the Chinese, with the Japanese, with the Koreans, if we're going to try to build a team for 2022, we have to actually be a lot more aggressive in the way we do that. And we had to go and compete against the best. And then we created something that was also very important for us, which was we push our coaches to make sure that they were accountable and responsible of everything we were doing. We actually created our own software to make sure that when the boys were playing, when they were just actually developing without seeing what's happening in the back kitchen, we would be monitoring every single development, every single game analysis. We would be monitoring whether they were playing in their clubs, whether they were making the progress we were hoping, and we were creating the succession maps that would show us who are the 25, 30, 40 players that will make the pool that eventually will play for Qatar. This has been a massive task. We have coaches who are working 16 hours a day to make sure that all this back engineering room allows us to see whether we're committed, whether we're passionate, whether we believe in what we say we are doing. The players don't see this. The country's leaders see this. They see that really we take them as seriously as we would have ever taken a football project. We organize the competition by ages so that they end up playing between 45 and 60 games of the highest level, all of them competitions, none of them friendly matches. And we set out a course that said, we have 4.5 years ahead of us and we need to get some milestones. How far can we go into competition? And we were lucky to have the opportunity to run into that path here that you see. So similarly to Iceland under 17, 19, 21, we took that generation and we say there's a couple of big events. One is the Asian Championship under 19. Can we qualify? Can we go to the Asian under 19 Championship and do well? And do well means, can we get to the semis? So this is if the under 21s of Iceland get to the semis of the Euro finals. And if you do that, you go to the under 20 World Cup. Can we go to an under 20 World Cup? And if we do that, how well can we do there? And then there's an under 23 Asian Championship. Can we try to qualify for that? And can we try to do well? And if you do well there, there's Olympic Games in Rio. Can we try to get to Rio? So this is what we set out 4 years ago. We did one more peculiarity, which is we're going to send the youngest team in each of those competitions. We want to go to an under 19 Asian Cup if we can with 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds. If we go to the under 20 World Cup, we want to go with 18-year-olds. If we go to the under 23 Asian Championship, we want to go with 21-year-olds. We want to push these guys to a level that has never happened in Qatar. So we did that this cycle with all those little judo sessions at the beginning, with all those special programs, with all those coaches that came thinking we're going to the desert, we are crazy, but let's see what we can do. And this is the result of that cycle. So in November 2013, we qualified for the Asian Championship under 19. The following year, we won it for the first time in the history of Qatar. That meant going to an under 20 World Cup for the first time in 35 years, this time as the champion in Asia. We didn't make it out of the group stage in the World Cup. We played against Portugal, Senegal, and Colombia. In the last game against Senegal, we were winning 1-0 against the Senegalese team that looked like 25 or 26. We lost the game in the 88th minute, and we did not advance to the second round. The country talked about failure. We didn't do well in an under 20 World Cup. A team that has been Asian champion for the first time in history and made it to the World Cup for the first time in 35 years. We went on then to try to do well in the Asian under 23 Championship in Doha. This was last January. That generation, again with 21-year-olds, against some of the biggest teams in Asia, made it to the semifinals. It turns out that to go to the Olympics, you need to be top 3. Only 3 make it to the Olympics. Tough, tough, tough. We lost in the semifinals in the 86th minute again. Then we played in the third place match. We were winning 1-0 against Iraq, and they tied it in the 88th minute. And then they beat us in the overtime. But for the first time in the 5 years I've been there, the whole country was behind a Qatari team. The stadium was full. We had 13,000 people filling out the stadiums. And the country started talking about, these are our champions. So we see that we are on the right journey. It's not about what we've achieved, we are on the right journey. We have now another generation following with another Asian Championship opportunity in October. And this is the road ahead. We know the championships we have, and we want that generation to continue pushing. There is another under-23, there's another under-20 World Cup that we try to qualify. If Qatar, with the naturalized players of the senior team, qualify for Russia, we'll try to convince the country to go with a bunch of these young guys because we want them to have a World Cup experience before 2022. We have an AFC in 2019. We have another Olympic Games opportunity for this generation. This is a little bit summary of what this team is today, this Olympic team under 21.
مباشرة بين الخشبات الثلوث الأشمال المهم جول 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 محاولة خطيرة للحراس عرضية تأتي أخرى رأسية وتصدي ومن ثم This is when Qatar missed going to the Olympics. But for the first time in a long time, you could tell that players from Qatar, national team from Qatar, hated to lose. I will show you in the minutes I have left two other things that make us very self-assured that we are working in the right direction. At the beginning, and this answers a little bit about
does money buy success? At the beginning of the program, we realized we needed to take the Qatar players at 18 years of age outside of Qatar because of the environment, because if they want to be the best they can be, they needed to be tested with better players. And we bought a small club in Belgium, in the second division of Belgium. We could have bought a club in the first division of Belgium. That would have been the easy way. That's what money does. We bought it for a fraction of the money we would have paid, and we said, you guys need to bring this team to the first division in Belgium, because we want to have a team where 19, 20, 21-year-old Qataris can play against Anderlecht and Bruges. And for 3 years, they failed to bring the team up. And this year, on the last match against Antwerp, the second biggest city in Belgium, in their stadium, both clubs tied in points at 60 points. Whoever wins goes to first division. And we played with 6 players who were 18, 19, and 20. That was the team. And they went with 15,000 screaming fans, and this is what happened in the 90th minute. We're wearing blue, they're wearing red. They have a corner. We get the ball, and we have a counter-attack with one of the most promising players from Qatar, Akram Afif, who started as a scrawny little kid like Abdallah.
De voorzet van Matland.
We are in blue.
Die komt weggekopt. Maar geen van beide ploegen schiet wat op met een gelijkspel. En dan is er de counter van Eupen met Afif.
We score in the first
Die
division.
is sneller dan zijn ploegmakkers. Geeft hem mee. Daar is de poging. En daar is de misser. Onwaarschijnlijk. Onyekuru in de tweede.
And we finally got a lucky break. We didn't win the game. We tied, and we didn't go to first division. We got a lucky break because the other club had been banned by the Belgian FA to get the license because of 22 counts of fraud. So just a few days ago, we got a call, and we've been promoted. So there will be a team from Qatar in the first division in Belgium next season. But the most important thing is our player, Akram Afif, 2 days later, said to me, I panicked. I passed the ball. I should have finished that game. And that is the failure that they've seen in January in the Asian Cup under 23, that they've seen in this game, and that after 5, 6, 7, 10 times will make Qatar a competitive team. The last piece, and I leave you with this, and I'm sorry for extending myself a bit. These are the news that came 5 days ago. Akram Afif, that player that made that pass, has signed for Villarreal. This is the first player in the history of Qatar that signs with a La Liga club. He is 19 and he's nowhere where he needs to be. But to think the road that we are taking is something that we're very proud of and will continue to work on. Thank you.